Is lightweight going to be your new weight class, or do you plan on going back down to 145?
We see what happens. We see what happens. In this sport, having options is always good. And first things first is Justin Gaethje. But there's a fun fight down there that the man keeps talking, and I keep hearing. So my only advice to that guy is when the contract come up, sign the dotted line. Don't make no excuses.
It is official. Illia Topuria versus Max Holloway, UFC 308, Abu Dhabi. This is the best fight you could make in the UFC right now. I think out of all of them, this won't be fight of the year because Holloway versus Gaethje was fight of the year. There's no way. Can that be topped? Let's talk about that for a second. Will there ever be a better moment? Will there ever be a better fight in MMA than that? And I don't know if it was because I was there and maybe that, so I'm probably biased. So I don't know that you could ever top that. But what happens if Max Holloway points at the center of the octagon with Illia Topuria? What happens then? I guarantee you, Holloway's going to be like, yeah, let's go. So this is basically power versus volume when it comes to the striking. In my opinion, it's a lot more complicated than that, but that's a very simple way to think about it, is Illia Topuria has the power and Max Holloway has the volume. I just think that Holloway's defense is too good. I don't think that Topuria is gonna be that guy to knock out Max Holloway. I do think that he could submit him though, and I think that Max Holloway would probably win if it was a decision, but I do think that if the fight does go all 5 rounds, the last 10 seconds, I do think that Topuria has a real chance to win the fight. So if Max Holloway invites him to the center of the octagon the way that he did with Justin Gaethje, so it's like, how hard does Justin Gaethje hit compared to Topuria? Does Topuria really hit harder? Topuria is just a little bit more explosive, in my opinion, than Justin Gaethje, but Justin Gaethje, he does have power. Yeah, so I do think that Max Holloway could get submitted. He has been submitted before. It's been a long time. I mean, I'm talking like early in his career. I think it was Dustin Poirier that submitted him, maybe. I can't remember. Maybe a guillotine or something like that. Early in his career, might have been his debut. I'm not sure. But early in his career, he did get submitted maybe a couple times. I can't remember. But most of his losses have been decisions. And I just don't think that Topuria is the guy to beat Max Holloway at Max Holloway's game. I think Topuria is going to have to take the easy path to victory in this fight. Or there's no easy path with Max Holloway. And the challenge with him, he has really good takedown defense. So really, Ilia needs to try to drop him and get him to the ground that way. I think that would probably be more effective. I mean, Justin Gaethje did drop him in the fight, even though they didn't count it. But I think that would be the most effective way for Topuria to initiate the grappling exchanges, would be to try to drop him with his striking. I think Max does put on an insane pace, so I could see Max just wearing him out and just outworking him, really. Not necessarily hurting him as much, but doing damage and wearing him out. I think that's definitely what he is capable of. If I had to predict this fight, I think it's going to be a 5-round Max Holloway masterclass. That is my prediction. I don't think it's going to be close, but I think that if Topuria wins, it's going to be probably on the ground. I think the next GOAT is going to either be Pereira or Holloway. If Holloway beats Topuria and then moves up to lightweight, fights for the 155 title, then I think he has a real possibility of being the GOAT. If Pereira moves up to heavyweight and wins a heavyweight title, he's the GOAT. So I think Holloway or Pereira, who were both at UFC 300. Insane. Tracy Cortez wears fake eyelashes in the octagon. So I think that Tony Ferguson should be able to wear his sunglasses. Or maybe the baseball glove. At least one of those. They should let him wear one baseball glove and one MMA glove. That's the roots of the UFC, guys. Crazy shit like that. You guys act like this isn't what the UFC is, but that is what it is. It was like this sport versus that sport. I just don't know if Dana White is going to allow Tony to continue fighting in the UFC. I mean, he's been so loyal to the UFC. He really got screwed over a lot, especially with the Khabib fight. So I just feel like this is Dana's way of kind of paying him back for that, I guess, and allowing him to continue fighting. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know what's going on. This is just me speculating. So I wouldn't mind Tony doing one last fight, but I think they need to make it like a big deal that it's his retirement, and then maybe it will feel like he can actually make that decision and be done and move on. So I kind of have a unique perspective with Tony Ferguson because I just find it hard to not be inspired by people like him. You know, people like David Goggins, people like Cameron Haynes, you know, just not even just fighters, just people who seek really difficult challenges in life and are never satisfied, and they always know that they can get better. And I just think that there's really something beautiful about that. And so I think that Tony's career is inspiring still, even being on a losing streak. And the reason that I say that is because to be on that long of a losing streak and still believe in yourself, like, that's pretty freaking awesome. Like, isn't that the goal? Isn't that how we all should be? Like, I'm not saying we should all be Tony Ferguson, but like, we should all continue to believe in ourselves no matter how many times we fail. And we always know, like, oh, I could have done this, or oh, I could have done that. Like, holding yourself accountable, taking things seriously. So, and that's easier said than done. Like, that is a hard thing to do in life. But I just think it's really inspiring that Tony just kind of keeps getting back up and yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like the same Tony, like, even during his walkout. Like, it's just not the same energy there. And I hope that he can get out of that and get through that. And I don't know what that is. You know, it might just be, like, maybe physical pain. It could be, you know, anything. And I don't think people realize the mental effect of injuries and physical pain. It's something that I didn't experience early on in my life that much, but later in life I've experienced it a lot, with illness and injuries and things like that. And yeah, it takes a toll on you, and you just don't have the same energy. But it's like, you know, what if he does snap that losing streak? Like, to go on as long of a winning streak as he went on, then to go on this long of a losing streak. He broke the record for the longest losing streak in the UFC. So, but you know what's crazy? He didn't retire. I don't know what that was. It was kind of funny though. I mean, I think he just felt like that was what everyone wanted him to do, maybe, because it, you know, that's what everybody keeps saying. But it's like, well, it's his life, it's his decisions. If Dana's gonna keep booking him fights, then can you blame him? He makes a lot of money to fight. So why would he turn down these opportunities? And he didn't spar for a long time. So all like the CTE comments and just stupid things that people say about him that they don't have any evidence of. Tony Ferguson didn't spar for a long time, so he hasn't had the same kind of head trauma as a lot of other fighters. I don't think people are taking that into account either. Michael Chandler, that one was really rough. But other than that, I mean, I feel like he's done better than I think a lot of people expected after what Gaethje did, and that fight did take a toll on him. But I think just something that people need to realize is that depending on how you train, if you're the type of fighter that trains like hard sparring all the time, then you're taking a lot more head trauma than somebody who's getting knocked out in all their fights. Seriously. I think that's the misconception. Like, sure, one bad knockout can really change things and can really affect you negatively, like can really affect your health. And it's, you know, it's unfortunate that that's a part of this sport and it does happen. But here's another perspective. Think about this. The biggest star on this card, this entire UFC card, the biggest star was Tony Ferguson. And he's on an 8-fight losing streak. And he's the biggest star on this card. So what does that tell you about the UFC's ability to build stars like they used to, like Anthony Pettis, Tony Ferguson, BJ Penn, Matt Hughes? These people were stars. Conor McGregor is kind of an anomaly, but you get what I mean. The UFC doesn't have the same level of star power that it used to. You know, the delivery of the content is a lot different now than it used to be. I think when it was on TV, it was just like, there's something about being on TV that feels like, oh wow, like you're big, like you're a star, you're famous. But it's like on the internet, well, anybody can be on the internet now. Yeah, I mean, Alex Pereira, he's probably the biggest star in the UFC right now. I think Yuri could be a big star. I mean, I know he's not winning all of his fights, but that doesn't matter. Justin Gaethje doesn't win all of his fights. Dustin Poirier doesn't win all of his fights. Why are some fighters expected to be undefeated and then other fighters, we love them no matter how many times they lose? Also, I wonder if fighters just aren't able to express themselves the same way that they used to, and maybe that's had an effect on their star power. I think that, you know, maybe there's just too many fighters too. Like, there's a lot of fighters, and it's really hard to keep track of everyone. I think it is way more difficult to stand out now than it used to be, because you can go to a local show, there's gyms everywhere, there's jiu-jitsu gyms, there's boxing gyms, there's MMA gyms. You don't even have to start with, like, jiu-jitsu. You can start with MMA, you know? And that wasn't as common before. It was usually, like, you started with karate or jiu-jitsu, or you started with something, or you're like a street fighter, you're a brawler, you know. And it's fun. That's why mixed martial arts is cool. That's the best part about it, because of the way that it was originated. And I think that, you know, maybe we should kind of go back to our roots a little bit. And since, you know, like I said on the last episode, the UFC is merging with WWE, so I think, yeah, like, let the fighters kind of express themselves loudly. Make it maybe just a little bit less corporate. It feels very, UFC feels very corporate. And I don't know, I like that in some aspects, but I think they need to just make it a little bit more fun. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. You know, like, some people got mad when I asked Derek Lewis if he was going to try Emo's Pizza. But, you know, I was just trying to make media fun again. I was trying to make MMA fun again, because it used to be fun. We used to have fun here. Now you guys want to be all serious. If I was serious, they'd be like, oh, she takes herself way too seriously. So at the end of the day, I think the fighters being able to design their own shorts, that's cool. You know what I think that they should do is they should be able to get, like, their own login or something to where they can design their own fight kit, and they can design their own t-shirts if they want to, or they can have the UFC do it. You know, they could opt in. And that way, they can just express themselves way easier. You know, I don't think they need to be a champion to be able to pick what color their shorts are. Like, this is insane. This is an individual sport. If this was a team sport, then yeah, they should wear uniforms. But this is an individual sport, so I think that we need to remember that and allow the fighters to fully express their individuality and express who they are. And that's what's going to attract their fans. Let's say they're watching Peyton Talbot's debut, and he's got black checkerboard shorts on, and the skater kids are like, oh, those shorts are so sick, dude. You know? And their little skater friends, they're like, yeah, dude, Peyton Talbot's going to go whoop some ass. And these kids have never watched MMA in their life, but they know skateboarding, so they know Peyton Talbot. You know, like, we need more of that. And since the Olympics are on, I was thinking, how would some Olympic sports translate to MMA? Like, how would gymnastics translate to MMA? I feel like gymnastics would actually be a really good base for MMA. It's just a matter of what gymnasts are willing to get punched in the face is really the question. So, not even just punch in the face, like kicked in the face, kneed in the face, all kinds of different things. I just feel like people never talk about other sports being a good base for MMA besides other combat sports. Skateboarding is actually a pretty good base for MMA, honestly. If you compare it to other sports, you know, it's definitely a better base for MMA than lacrosse. It's a better base for MMA than baseball. It's a better base for MMA than soccer. What are you guys doing over there? Why are you guys always crying? I played soccer when I was a kid. I did cry one time, I did. I was not a very good goalie. I got a soccer ball to the face really hard.